This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Are you currently in a toxic relationship and unsure what the next day will bring? Have you often wondered if there's more to life than this? Do you suffer from self-esteem issues that you've had since you were a young child? Have issues or have difficulty speaking with your family? Do you feel surrounded by self-centered people? Seems as though you're always giving and they're always taking. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, you need some answers. The 10-day challenge to live your true life gives you the knowledge and techniques for creating boundaries in your life that help us to deal with family, as well as dealing with those narcissistic and toxic people in your life. It offers the insight into understanding and overcoming your self-esteem issues, and to begin to see for the first time your amazing value. You owe it to yourself to find the power within you. Or a significant other emotionally blindsides you when you're least expecting it. And that's what blindsiding is, right? It's like not knowing that there's going to be an altercation, an argumentation. And then what happens is that we get so stressed out and we get anxious and we get kind of overwhelmed because it's happening when you're least expecting it, that we usually do what? We usually wrench it up. We usually do the opposite of de-escalating it. We just can't seem to. At first, we're probably overwhelmed. We're blindsided. We're literally. It's like we have no words. And then what happens usually is that as they continue to emotionally go after you and yell and scream and start an argument, you begin to get wrenched up. Right? Because in the beginning, it was like you were sideswiped. You were not expecting it. You didn't know what to say. And so there you are. So it's like, what do you do in these situations? How much of it do we have to be aware of defending ourselves? How much of it do we need to kind of step back and emotionally see the situation for what it is? Not only emotionally, but just to see the situation clearly. And then how much of it do we need to stay out of it? And I know you say, well, how do we prepare ourselves for being blindsided? Well, I know that sounds odd, and I know it sounds weird that we can't, but we actually can prepare. There's things that we can think about prior to this happening. It's like self-defense, right? It's like a self-defense class. Okay, until you take self-defense class, you don't know how to really, some of us have an idea, right? But you don't have a complete definition and idea of self-defense. But once you take it, you know that if you get blindsided physically by somebody down an alley or what have you, that you have the tool set to know what to do. Now, are we always going to use this tool set? No. But if we know the tool set well enough and we know what we need to do well enough, we hope that when we're in the situation that within a couple of seconds, we'll wake up to what we need to do and we will go into autopilot of what we learned. Okay, so that's what's critical right now. So think about it as almost like a self-defense class today, but we're not defending physically ourselves, just emotionally and mentally. And I've recently had some clients tell me that, they've been in some situations. They were kind of blindsided by a coworker, didn't know that it was really going to come out that way, had no idea that was going to be the communication. And unfortunately, what happens most of the time is we kind of jump to their level. We get a little unruly. We get a little loud. We're defending ourselves. And what happens that I found is that when somebody is blindsiding you emotionally and yelling and screaming, that usually their emotions aren't well thought out. More often than not, if you are not expecting this, they're actually transferring anger from somewhere else. And so if you really weren't anticipating this means that the way that they interpreted something that you did was obviously antithetical to the way you thought about it, And so it definitely did blindside you, okay? And I know that most of the folks that are involved in my channel are not narcissists, so it's not like you were living in your own world. You were not your own private Idaho. You were actually thinking you were paying attention and feeling as though you were doing the best thing and putting the best foot forward. And then what happens is you get blindsided. And what I found is that more often than not, so when we, let's say you're at work, it's 7:30 in the morning. You get there. You're racing to get there. It's you dealt with traffic. You're dealing with all this stuff. You get in the elevator. You get off the elevator. You're in the office, and one of your coworkers comes up and just lambast you, like verbally, like calling you out on stuff. Now, see, the thing is that we're not prepared for that, especially if you had no idea that there was even real an issue between you and this person. But more so, what happens is it takes us off guard so much that we retaliate out of fear. And we also retaliate out of anxiety. So how do we prepare for that? So that's a good question. We'll be talking about that here in just a little while. But more so, at what level do we have to get right with ourselves? Because I think a lot of us have been walked all over in our life sometimes. I think many of us are recovering codependents or current codependents that have done so much for other people, that are always trying to help other people, right? But it seems like you're putting yourself on the back burner. So in a situation like this, what I found is that someone that hasn't really stood up for themselves can get really, really angry in a situation like this, right? And people can find you very defensive, even though that's not the type of person you are. It's just a lot of collateral damage. It just seems like this is just par for the course in your life. Makes you really irritated. And I think one of the sidebars that we want to talk about is the fact that if we are codependent and we've done a lot of things for this person because we want them to be happy, or we're trying to do the right thing, or we feel like we need to do that, we can get a little angry with the interpretation of how they make us feel about something that we didn't know we had done wrong. And let me give you a good example. And I've seen this happen more often than not. You get blindsided, let's just say by a narcissist about an argument that really has nothing to do with you, but you get pulled into the situation. There's bits and pieces of the reality there, right? That there's something that has to do with you, but the way that they're interpreting your part is so much worse than it is. But also, because it's all about them, and because it's always been all about them, you trying to assert yourself in the situation makes you look like the ass. Okay? And so what I found is that because many of us haven't asserted ourselves with a lot of folks out there, we haven't felt the need to, we've been too fearful to, or we don't want to rock the boat, right? It's one of those three. But when this happens, a lot of us who normally don't rock the boat can get a little angry. Well, what I found is that when we do that, right, instead of it showing that we're defending ourselves, it almost affirms with them that there's something wrong with us. Okay? And I know that sounds weird, but they're looking for affirmation to the fact that you are this bad. They're looking for affirmation to say in their minds, yes, this person's really bad. Look at the way they're yelling at me. Look at this. See, I totally knew they were like that. And I know many of you are saying, yeah, I've been in one of those arguments before where it wasn't about them attacking me. It began how I was, and then it affirmed the problem, the fallout. Because remember, somebody's got to be the villain. And if someone can make you the villain instead of them making themselves the villain, then they've won. Okay? And I know we shouldn't be looking at win or loss. I get it. I mean, many of you are very spiritual beings. You know what I'm speaking of. The idea of win or loss is really neither here nor there, right? But unfortunately, we live in a society where there's a group, right? A large group, actually, that it's all about win or loss to them. And it's all about control. Okay? And remember, when we get into these arguments and we allow them to take us to a certain level that we don't wish to be at, they have controlled and manipulated the situation, and we've allowed them to do so. And so that's why I think it's so important for this video today. Because what happens when we get emotionally blindsided in an argument is that first off, we're taken off guard. Second of all, we really don't know what to say because we didn't expect it to happen in the first place. And thirdly, they will start pushing your buttons until eventually they try to get you to explode. Okay, that is the modus operandi. That is the way that they want to work. And then once you explode, you're the problem. And so let's not give them the satisfaction. Let's not give that type of person the satisfaction today or any day for that matter. So that's why that's why I'm doing this video today, so that we can go through what I'd like you to keep in your head, the thoughts that I'd like you to have, the tools in your toolbox, so that the next time this happens, I hope the little ding ding light, ding 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 ding, what do we have for them? I hope that light goes off and you remember this video, so that instead of, in their world of winning and losing, instead of losing, you win the argument. And you also not only win the argument in their eyes, but you also feel good about what you said and how you walked out of it. Okay, I'm going to be giving that information here in just a little while, so stay tuned because we have a lot to talk about, okay? I'll be right back in 2 shakes.
Is there something impacting your relationship? Even though the years when your kids are small is a beautiful time of life filled with magical moments, it can also be a time when couples struggle to stay connected. After all, your kids need a lot of your time, but so does your business or your career. And making time for self-care is hard, so your health and well-being suffers. And date night? Well, that seems like a distant dream. So instead of days filled with loving connection, there are moments of tension, stress, and worry. But what if there was help to get you through these years? A solution built with young parents in mind. One with no difficult concepts to master. One that's fun and gives immediate results. And fits seamlessly into your schedule no matter how busy you get. A solution to make sure you stay connected. We're offering you support to keep your connection strong. The Connection app for couples. Click the link below to learn more. We're making together better so your moments stay magical.
You can't miss the newest show, The Artist Perspective, sponsored by Art for Your Cause. To learn more about Art for Your Cause, go to artforyourcause.com. Art for Your Cause helps artists and charities by bringing artists and their work and charities together to be able to raise money for your favorite charities while still paying the artists for their work. To learn more about The Artist Perspective, go to theartistperspective.tv and watch our first episode featuring world-renowned photographer Jeremy Locke. Hey there, friends. I'm glad you're catching the live broadcast of Live Your True Life Perspectives. I've created my very own Patreon page. You can go to Patreon and you can check out my page. The link is right here. It's an amazing platform because I'm able to offer more stuff there, different stuff than I am on the Live Your True Life program, as well as on my YouTube channel. You've probably seen my YouTube channel. We put up new video content every week. And we have a lot of great content on there. But on the Patreon page, I'm able to go a step further. I'm offering group coaching sessions, private coaching sessions, as well as access to exclusive content, like the Celebrity Perspective, Season 1. I won a Telly Award for that this year. You can watch all episodes right here on Patreon. I'm offering you the exclusive chance to come on the radio with me, to be live on Live Your True Life Perspectives, nationally syndicated radio show, to talk about yourself, to talk about your amazing life, and to inspire the Live Your True Life listeners. When you become a member of my Patreon page, you are directly supporting me to help other people to live their true life. I look forward to seeing you on Patreon. Let's inspire one another.
Hi friends, glad to be back. Today we're talking about being emotionally blindsided. It's one of the things that many of us are not prepared for, right? And we're prepared for those, those saga arguments. We know when someone's going to get in our face, but what happens when we don't? What happens when it happens out of the blue? We're not expecting it. How do you respond? And so in today's live stream, I want to be telling you more about, what I was talking about earlier. How we can win the argument, because remember, when we're in arguments with certain people, when they start them, it's all about a win or loss to them. They don't see it any other way. So how do we win the argument instead of lose the argument? And also, how do we deal with the argument in a proper way so that we don't feel bad about what we said or what we did, and we don't feel like we have to take anything back? So how do we deal with that? What do we do? Okay, so let's start talking about that, because I think we're good. I want to check and make sure our audio is good. Is everything good? Perfect. So one of the things that's interesting is that when we're in an argument with folks and we're just having a normal argument, we don't really know what to say or how to deal with it. But when we are blindsided, because it causes us to stress, we have anxiety, our heart rate increases, right? Our fight or flight mode increases. And when we have that fight or flight mode, how many of you are in that mode and you actually make the right choices? Very few, right? I know that if I'm in that fight or flight mode, it's very hard to see clearly what the clear response is, right? And usually the response in fight or flight mode is not calm and chill. It's normally like react. Okay. But I want you to think about it. When you're being emotionally blindsided by something that you didn't think was going to take place because it didn't seem to hold water, as far as, when somebody blindsides you and they're very angry for something, about something maybe you were involved in, that really doesn't deserve this type of emotional stance. First off, it's a little odd. Second of all, it causes anxiety. Third, it causes the fight or flight mode. And last but not least, it causes you to want to defend yourself, right? So you want to come out of that corner fighting. Well, what I found is that if you're dealing with somebody with that type of emotional lower EQ, the idea of coming out fighting makes them believe that they've won the argument, okay? Because they're trying to prove to themselves, I believe, that something's wrong with you or that you're a bad person, okay? And so if you come out fighting and arguing and yelling and screaming, that validates and basically makes you the villain, right? It villainizes you and validates the fact that they're right. Now, I used to see it differently, because I used to say, if I don't defend myself, then the person doesn't believe that I'm telling the truth, so I have to defend myself. So I've got to come out of there fighting and arguing, because there's no other way around it. But I've realized that it doesn't matter what you say in this argument. It doesn't matter what information that you have opposite of their information. They've already bought their bill of goods. They've already bought into their rationale of how they've villainized you. Okay, so I want you to really think about that. So let me give you an example. You're at work, you're working with a group, a team, working on a project, and you're doing what you need to be doing, and you turn in the stuff that you need to turn in, and your coworker lambasts you the next day, blindsides you about how they weren't part of it and how you cut them completely out of it, whatever that looks like, that you don't feel like there has any truth to it. So how do you defend yourself? I think the first question though is, do you need to defend yourself? And what I've found is that in the need to defend ourselves, we usually lose sight of reality. Okay, so let's calm it down, right? So normally in the grand scheme of things, when somebody says something about you that's not true, our normal response is, that's not true. Okay, great. That has no valid, it's not valid whatsoever. But what happens when we're in a heated argument? We have a tendency of yelling. We have a tendency of arguing our side. We have a tendency of proving our truth. But when was the last time that you were in a heated argument, proving your truth, where the other person believed you or even listened to anything you had to say? And I'm just throwing that out there because I find that we think that we should tell our story in this argument when no matter what we say, I don't really think they hear any of it. And I don't think they're listening to any of it to hear what we're saying. So what I'm saying is that your defense of yourself goes on deaf ears. Very interesting dynamic. The defense of the self goes on deaf ears. And that's what I find interesting is that so in these arguments, especially when you've done nothing wrong, the idea of defending yourself just doesn't even seem necessary. And I know that goes against our ego because our ego wants us to sit there and say, no, I did nothing wrong. Prove it. This is my truth. I'm living in my truth and I'm going to state my truth. And I'm going to yell my truth and I'm going to show you my truth. You might not believe my truth, but if you've gotten in my face at this point, then I'm going to get back into your face to prove my truth. I have been on both sides of that equation trying to prove my truth and it didn't work because they weren't listening and they'd already made up their mind anyway. What I have realized that is if I get angry or I get to their level or I get to their loudness or I get to their energy level, that I've really lost the match anyway because I've kind of lost it with myself because I kind of feel bad about losing it. Okay, so let's talk about that. First off, in this argument, we need to win. We need to show that we win by some sort of tactic, right? Because that's the whole reason why they're arguing with you is to get a win-loss out of it. Not that you and I feel the same way because we didn't even know this was happening, but they feel like they can get a win-loss out of it and they're trying to prove the fact that they're going to win. The other thing that we got to figure out too is how do we keep our composure and how do we stay in our own personality? Because many of us are not angry people. Most of us don't really have anger issues. We're not fighters. We actually are pretty calm. And so how do we stay in that and who we are and not lose that when dealing with the situation? So first off, how do we not lose the argument in their eyes? Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we have to keep these tools in our toolbox. We got to keep this in the back of our mind at all times. And I hate to say that because, we want to have tabula rasa. We want to have blank slate. We want to go, ooh, this is great. Life is great. But we do have to be prepared for things that we might not be prepared for. And what I'd like to call this, and a friend of mine and I were talking about it yesterday, it's almost like a pop quiz. We're all talking about doing the right thing. We're all talking about not losing our cool. We all talk about not falling to other people's levels. We all talk about not dealing or responding in negative space. We all talk about not dealing with lower vibrational issues, right? But what happens when we're blindsided? We do all that and more. We lose the argument, and then guess what happens? We feel bad about how we responded. We begin to play it over and over again in our head all day long. I could have done this, or I should have said that, or if I would have just said that, then it would have been better. And if I would have just said that, and if I would have just dropped it in the very beginning, I wouldn't have settled into that emotion. I wouldn't have gone to their state of mind. And so the woulda, coulda, shoulda is what we're trying to offset today. the second guessing of ourselves, the feeling bad about what we did. We're going to try to get rid of all that. We're going to try to clean that slate today. Okay? And so I'm going to tell you exactly how we're going to win this argument. First off, we got to have these tools in our toolbox, and I'm going to also explain how that we can actually look at ourselves in the mirror and say we did the right thing. Because with these two things, if we can think about this and we can have this in the back of our mind all day, every day, because this will apply more often than not. You might have an argument with your spouse, your significant other, that blindsides you, right? But because you're so emotionally invested, you lose it. Okay? Same thing with the coworker. Okay? Maybe they're badgering you, they're questioning your authority, whatever it is. You might lose it. A family member, a lot of water on the bridge, right? But remember, we don't need to lower ourselves to their level. And I'm not saying they're at a lower level. We're not, but I'm saying they have started quite a bit of an argument. They have emotionally blindsided you, right? This is the scene. You were not expecting any of this. So really what happened is the situation was not called for this extent of emotion, right? And so now we're dealing with it. Now do we unfortunately rise to the occasion, or do we do what we need to do? And so in the next segment, I'm going to go through what to do, the tools to keep in your toolbox, the things to constantly remember, and what to do when you get emotionally blindsided. Stay tuned. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Hi, my name is Reginald Harvey, and I'm a wellness champion. I just published the medical memoir Anatomy of a Patient to inspire those affected directly or indirectly by a life-threatening diagnosis. Do you know or have a family member or dear friend who is suffering from catastrophic illness or debilitating disability? This is a conversation that few people are willing to have, and I want to have it with you. You can hear me on Live Your True Life Perspectives with Ashley Berges. For more information, go to reggieharvey.net.
Are you currently in a toxic relationship and unsure what the next day will bring? Have you often wondered if there's more to life than this? Do you suffer from self-esteem issues that you've had since you were a young child? Have issues or have difficulty speaking with your family? Do you feel surrounded by self-centered people? Seems as though you're always giving and they're always taking. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, you need some answers. The 10-day challenge to live your true life gives you the knowledge and techniques for creating boundaries in your life that help us to deal with family, as well as dealing with those narcissistic and toxic people in your life. It offers the insight into understanding and overcoming your self-esteem issues, and to begin to see for the first time your amazing value. You owe it to yourself to find the power within you.
We had the system crash. That's why we were on commercial for so long. So we had that happen. It's been one of those days. I don't know if many of you are experiencing that kind of day to day. It's been an interesting week so far. For some of you, might have felt like nothing's gone the right way. Others of us, it just seems comical to a degree. To what's happening. It's comical, and sometimes it's not comical. Sometimes it's not funny. Sometimes it's hard to see the silver lining. Sometimes it's hard to even get a laugh when it seems like multiple things aren't going the right direction. And if y'all are going through that, I'm here for you. It's been a challenging time for a lot of people right now. There's a lot of things happening, and you know it's critical that we stick together, that we find our tribe and we stick together, because that's the key. Is that there's so many things going on the planet. There's so many things going on in various countries. There's so many things going on in many of our countries, and it's hard to really keep focus, especially with all the responsibilities we have, the job, the work, trying to afford all this stuff. And it's an interesting dynamic that we live in right now. It's an interesting, I don't know if, I think that we have so much media bombarding us at all times. I think we have so many things happening at one time. And then I think we have so many responsibilities. And I think a lot of us are really awakening to who we truly are. And we're seeing things that maybe we didn't really want to see before. How is that sounding? Sound pretty good?
I still can't hear from the regular one since I did it on the other one that we had.
Okay. Are we still just sticking with the other one? I don't know.
Well, I think it's coming from here.
Oh, okay. You think the system itself is kind of messing up?
Yeah, because you can hear me really good.
Okay. You want to keep playing with it? We're just trying to work this out, guys. We're going to figure it out. I'm not really sure what's happening with our audio. Normally the camera would pick up properly. I think we have some sort of system malfunction, but we don't want to lose the feed, so we're trying to fix it. So let's just see if we can get the audio right and we can move on. So let's see what we got here. Can y'all hear me at all? And how does the audio sound? You think we got somewhere that we can use that? Okay. So you just want, are we good with changing the audio, or are we good? Okay. Okay, guys, well, we're going to go with what we got. So if you can hear me, I'm assuming that's okay. It just seems like the audio is not as clear as we normally have. It's pulling off the camera instead of the lapel. So it is what it is. But it's par for the course, especially for this week for a lot of us, right? So let's get back into the subject matter that we're talking about at hand. Being blindsided emotionally, and what we can do is if y'all want to, we can just redo this whole show. But being blindsided emotionally is something that's really tough to deal with, and also trying to figure out how to respond. And so the two things are, we have to win the argument because the other person that's emotionally blindsiding us already sees us as some sort of enemy to them, and they're trying to affirm the fact that we're a bad person, right? So they try to affirm the fact that we're a bad person, and so if we respond in a reaction mode, if we yell, if we scream, if we lose our cool, their thought process of ours, which is not correct, gets validated, and then they assume that they win the argument. So what do we have to do? Okay, we have to keep cool. It's really hard when we're emotionally blindsided. Okay. It's really hard when we're not anticipating somebody to come after us, right? But we have to have these tools in our toolbox, so we have to think about it. What do we do? Well, we try to stay our cool. One of the things that I've done is I just try to do some breathing exercises when somebody's coming after me emotionally like that, trying to start an argument, instead of like getting revved up and getting wrenched up, which is very easy to do. I try to really get some deep breaths in there, and I try to take a few steps back. Okay, I try to get a little bit of distance from me and that person, and I try to keep that distance from me and that person. I don't need to be right up next to them because I find that also can incite an argument, right? Because we're humans, we want to defend ourselves, right? Part of it's ego, and part of it's the self-defense idea, and some of us feel like it's just par for the course, that so many things have been building up to this that we finally lose it, right? So We got to be really smart about that. And one of the things that I've realized is that if you can just keep your cool and calm, even if inside you're stressing, even inside if your blood is boiling, even inside if it seems like your heart rate has really increased, instead, I want you to kind of just not say much. I'm not going to stand around for a lot of it, okay, because I don't believe that I deserve it, and you don't deserve it either. But what I would suggest is I usually can deal about a minute, minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, and I'm good, okay, because I know that any more than that, and it's going to be challenging for me to keep calm. So you kind of have to know how long you can keep calm without losing. And I mean, I could probably keep calm a lot longer than that, but I don't really want to hear somebody berating me about something I didn't do. So one of the things is to really just keep calm, take that actual emotional distance, take some steps away from that person. And then while they're talking, just try to breathe in and out pretty slowly and steadily, and just try to focus on exiting. Okay, because what I've realized is if you wrench it up, we have a problem. They've already kind of assumed that you're not a good person, so we can't do that. And you're not going to win the argument because they've already gone in with their arsenal. No matter what you say or do, they're not going to listen to you. So don't even try to defend yourself. And so really, you're just trying to figure out how to exit stage right and say the right thing that makes you feel okay about the situation, and you're not wondering if you said the right thing. Because that's what happens when you're in an argument like that, right? What do? We replay it over and over and over again. Okay, and that's not good. It's not good for any of us. It never helps any of us to replay it over and over again. So what we have to do is we have to say the proper thing. So usually it's, hey, my response usually is, hey, are we good here? I'm not going to continue this conversation with you. And you can add something in there, but remember, we don't want to tweak it up. I mean, you can say, hey, I don't see the rationale here. I'm going to talk to you later, maybe after you calm down, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Because we don't want to say anything that makes us look like a jerk. We also don't want to say anything that we really can't take back. And the other thing is they're not thinking clearly anyway. So no matter what you say or do, no matter how you say it, they're going to hear it a certain way out of their mouth. They're going to hear it as you yelling. They're going to hear it as you being angry. The only way that you can get out of that, and the only way that you can win, is by being calm and collected and then exiting with that conversation. And I know that's hard because we want to defend and we have that ego, and also we want to defend ourselves. So we have to do all these things. And I know that you say, Ashley, why do you keep saying it over and over again? Well, I'm saying it over and over again so that when it happens to you, you remember what I said. And if you remember what I said, just a part of it, keeping calm, taking a step back, seeing the situation for what it is, and then instead of reacting, just responding. And you can go on and get that one-liner down, whatever it is. Hey, I don't really have a response for you at this time. I'm going to think about this and digest this, and I'm going to get back to you. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye. Walk off. Whatever it is that you want to come up with for that conversation is important. And maybe you practice that and you use that generically for any sort of volatile emotional blindsiding. So then you're prepared for it, you know it, you exit stage right. Now remember, when you say that kind of stuff, you say, hey, okay, I'm going to think about this, I'm going to digest it, I'll talk to you later, have a great day, bye, or I'm leaving now, bye-bye. When you get into your car, or you get into your cubicle, or you walk down the street to grab a bite, or you're grabbing your coffee, you're not sad about how you respond. You're not feeling weak about how you responded. You're not feeling horrible about the way you responded. Instead, you responded very well. Now, could you have said more? Yes, but isn't it better to say less than to say more? And so not only have you shown that you're not going to weaken, you've also shown that you're not going to go to the same level, but you've also let go of the situation in a very proactive way. You also have a better chance of the person coming back and apologizing, because they showed their ass so much. You see what I'm saying? So when we gravitate though to it and we escalate it, there's no apology. The other person believes that they won, and on top of that, we feel bad about how we handled it. Because I believe that most of you watching right now, you're very positive people. You're trying to live your life the right way. You're doing everything the best you can. You believe in the process. and you also care about people, right? And so you even if they're being mean to you, you still want to do the right thing. And so I'm just helping you to find the right thing and to be able to have that arsenal with you, so the next time this happens, you're not taken out of your element, because that's the biggest thing. When we get taken out of our persona and our element, it doesn't make us feel good. It's like when somebody pushes you into road rage because they keep continuing to do that in the road, and they keep cutting you off and doing all this stuff, and eventually you get really angry and you flip the bird. That's out of your character, and you feel bad. You kind of feel a little bad about it, and also you kind of feel like, man, I can't believe I lowered myself to that level, right? So it's like, don't make yourself feel bad about you. You're just dealing with this. Let's just mitigate the situation and move on. So I hope this video has helped you. I hope this live stream has helped. I'm not really sure if there's any questions. We've had so many technical difficulties. Are there any questions at all, or are we good?
There's a few.
Okay, let's take some if they can hear us. Can they even hear us?
They can hear me good.
They can.
So the question will be from Aaron. It says, how much do you tolerate before you call the police and prosecute them?
How much? So they having trouble hearing here? Is it hard? It's not good.
They just hear you from far away.
Far away.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. So, how much do you tolerate before you call the police? I mean, I definitely wouldn't tolerate anybody. I definitely wouldn't tolerate anybody trying to touch me or trying to hurt me or trying to hit me. I think you have to. I think the biggest thing is that if they're going to get physical, I mean, that's definitely grounds to call the police. And I also think there's a time limit too. So if you can try to diffuse the situation, that's powerful. If you can try to exit the situation, that's what we need to do, right? But if we can't and you feel scared for your own safety, then that's when I would definitely get the law enforcement involved. Hoping you're in a situation where there are people there, because people are less likely to go off on someone if there's witnesses, right? So if there's somebody there that knows what's going on or can see it, that's definitely going to be something. So definitely, if you feel like your life is in jeopardy, if you feel like your physical body is in jeopardy, and if this person is not stopping, it doesn't seem like they have a turn-off switch, definitely it doesn't hurt to say, hey, I'm going to call the police or get somebody to call the police, because sometimes people don't stop unless there is authority. And also that can be a power play for them too. So I don't know if I'd use the police card every time, but if somebody's really in my face and they're really going after it, I think it's okay to use that, because some people need the authority to stay in line. So that could be, I hope that helps you, and I hope you can hear me. Next question.
From Summer, it says, what if they are in the house and won't just leave when you say you need a timeout?
Okay, so it's somebody in your house and they won't leave, and you said you already need a timeout. Well, if they're part of the household, or if not, you can also leave. If somebody's, first off, if they don't belong there and they don't live there, and they won't leave the house, then I would leave. You could always call authorities at that point as well, from being outside the house. But I've also realized that if they're not going to leave and they don't live there, there's only so far that they can escalate this. You could call the police if they won't leave. But if this is like a family member, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or something like that, and it's probably their mode of operandi not to leave, then you have to sit there and say, okay, what do I do about this situation? And my guidance is, if you feel like the situation is going to escalate, you need to try to safeguard yourself. You need to try to safeguard the situation. But normally people, when you leave the situation and they're just escalating it up because of you, usually when you're gone, they'll de-escalate it. But again, if this is a spouse or somebody that lives with you, it's really hard to get out of that situation unless you leave and you take the time out. And then that can be hard too, because how long do you leave the house for? And do you trust the person in the house when you're gone? That's another question. If this is something that's normalcy, I would advocate to really look at the relationship and see, is this a relationship that you want to be in? Is this something you want to stay in? Because that's concerning too, because if the person is constantly wrenching it up and escalating and causing arguments and blindsiding you emotionally and having yelling and screaming matches, this is not healthy at all. This is a very toxic dynamic. And some people really feed off of this. And if this person's feeding off of it, first off, we have to change our mode of operandi. Remember, we can't give them food to feed on, and that means we can't escalate it. But it takes a long time to retrain someone, and if we have constantly escalated it with them, it'll take a long time to retrain them. It might take about a month, but if you constantly de-escalate it and leave, over time they have nobody to argue with. Usually, without an audience, most people don't do it. So that's other food for thought as well. So if you've been escalating it up with them, trying to defend yourself, then doing the opposite, even though the other feels normal, doing the opposite can go a long way to retraining the situation. And then over time, you have to see if they're retrainable. And then if not, then you have to decide how much longer you want to stay in this relationship, because this person gets something from causing these arguments, and that's part of their toxicity. I hope that helped.
Okay, and last question is from April. How do you get rid of the guilt so you can end the relationship and move on?
To get rid of the guilt, how do you get rid of the guilt to end the relationship and to move on? Well, what I advocate is that in any relationship, when the writing's on the wall and it's time to get out, in any relationship, we must realize some certain things that are very important. First off, caveat, even though people have done us wrong, we need to treat them the way we want to be treated. And if we treat somebody with a decent enough respect, even if they've done some really lousy things, we can walk out of the relationship with our head high. And so what I'm advocating is that, let bygones be bygones. If you need to make an apology, make an apology. But live true to your values. Live true to your word. And even if it hasn't been a very good relationship, if you live true to your word and you step up to who you are and you don't allow them to take you down as far as minimizing or getting to the point of the argumentation with them. And it takes a lot, because remember, in a relationship, it's hard to see the fact that they're another human being. It's hard to see them and to respond in a certain way. And what my suggestion is, always being honest and truthful and always stating your highest good. And another thing is not losing your cool. And so if you're about to leave a relationship, look at the situation and say, hey, take an inventory. What are the things that I need to change in my life? What are the things that I need to change in my reaction and action? Let me go on and make those changes. Let me start imparting that now. And then I'm going to do that before I end the relationship, so that I know that I did everything I could to make it right, and then I feel better about my situation. And I hope that has helped you, because remember, when we speak at our highest word and deed, and we're not lying, and we're not disrespecting, and we're trying to show somebody respect, even though they might not have shown us respect, we're not lowering ourselves to their level. And last but not least, remember one thing is that we only have regret when we feel like we've done something wrong. So if you have started to mitigate that, if you have made apologies and amends for anything that you've done wrong, and you're not continuing to do the things wrong, then over time you will have seen that transparent change, and you will know that exiting that relationship, you did the right thing. So start living true to yourself and living true to your word, and not falling toward the other things and allowing them to bring you down, and that can help. Because I feel like in the end, it's better if we leave on decent terms, and seeing that person as another human being, maybe with all their faults or what have you, but still respecting them as an individual and being able to walk away, no matter how much disrespect they might have disrespected you, because it's not really about that, right? It's about how we treat other people. Even if they treat us badly, when we treat them with respect, even if they treat us with disrespect, we can hold ourselves up high and our heads up high, because we know that we did the right thing. It's all about doing the right thing, even though sometimes doing the right thing can be some of the most challenging things to do. So I hope that has helped y'all. I appreciate y'all's feedback. We're going to try to figure out everything we can to try to streamline this next week. Actually, we're going to probably do a live show on Saturday, but we're going to try to figure this out, guys. We really apologize for the challenges with the audio. We're going to try to get to the bottom of that right now. And I hope y'all like the video and you like the live stream, and just look forward to hearing from y'all. And if you do like this, please give us a like, and please share this with your family and friends. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. We really appreciate you. Y'all are family. And don't forget to live your true life. So we'll